Fine on your end. Okay, so while we wait just a couple of more minutes, we have a bunch more people on. Where are you guys tuning in from? I know we have a lot of people from Texas. We have a couple people from Colorado. Where are you guys tuning in from? Belgium, another one from Belgium. Denver, Texas, Houston. Oklahoma. Ooh, Canada. Nova Scotia.
Romania.
Canada. Very cool. I'm so excited.
Portland.
I will come back to Texas. I have decided that. If I have to drive there, I'm coming back. Okay, guys. Very cool. Nice. Welcome, everybody. Hi. Everybody jumping on. Minnesota, Portland, Canada. Very cool. Okay, you guys, Happy New Year. I am so excited. This is our first webinar of 2021. I feel like it's been a while since we have been able to jump online and do a class with all the holidays and all the festivities. I was very excited. I couldn't sleep last night because I was excited to come on and share some of the Megix love. So Mauricio, I think if you're okay, can we get started?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, and just to make sure you guys hear me totally fine, right? Audio's good?
Yes.
Audio is good. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy New Year. I wanted to, before we get started, to just extend my gratitude and appreciation for you guys joining us today. It's Monday. Typically, stylists are off on Monday. If you're working in Southern California, you're just really not working. So for you to choose to spend your time in helping your career and advancing your skill set and learning something new, I totally commend you for that. Education is something that holds a really special place in my heart personally, because I am a firm believer. Education is the mechanism we all need to utilize if we want to level up in our careers. So whether you're a new stylist or assistant or a seasoned stylist and you're wanting to move into that next step in your career, you're wanting to move into that next level, education is the key. And so for every time we have a webinar, every time we do a class, for everyone that shows up, big major kudos to you, because that shows that you're committed to growth in your industry. And there's really nothing better than that. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Araz Nelson. I am an educator with Moan International. So you guys, I realized this year that this will be my 20th year in the industry. So it has been 20 years since I joined this industry, and I absolutely love it. And I've been involved in education for the past, 14 or 15 years. And so like I said before, education is has a huge place in my heart. And so every time I get the opportunity to share something, and possibly help, I get super, super excited. So I am in Southern California. We're actually in my studio right now. And I just wanted to give you a little background of kind of how I got here, because about 3 years ago, Moan International came to the United States. And that's when I jumped on board and started using the color, because I thought, okay, there's something to this. And you guys, when I tell you that it has changed my business, there's no word of a lie there. And what I'm extra grateful for is that I learned and worked with and played with Megix pre-COVID. So when COVID hit and when all the shutdowns happened and we couldn't service clients, I felt very fortunate because I had this tool, right? And I didn't have to worry about how am I going to service all of these clients, right? If you're using a traditional long processing time color, it can be a little bit more difficult to service multiple clients in a day. So when we were allowed to reopen, I felt like I had the golden ticket with Megix, because here I am, I can still see 10 or 12 clients a day on the hour, and everyone looks good, everyone's hair looks good, grays are covered. And I didn't have to deal with that. How am I going to fit everybody in? Because with all the new COVID guidelines, right? With the sanitation, with the cleaning, with the no double booking, with the potential staggered schedules, with all of these restrictions that are on us right now in our industry, Megix10 is really the solution for you. I mean, hands down, if you can see more clients in a less amount of time throughout the day, like how is that not a huge win-win? So that's a little background on me. I've been using playing teaching for over 3 years now, and I'm excited to get this class started. But before we go any deeper, I want to hand it over to Maurizio. He's the other guy who's on the screen with me, and let him say a couple words.
Yes, good morning or good evening or good night to everyone. I am Maurizio. I'm the export manager of MOA International, but today in this webinar will be the RX assistant. So I will moderate any question that you might have, and I hope that you will enjoy this webinar.
Thank you, Maurizio. So yeah, he's tuning in from Italy,
Yes.
and he is basically going to be my co-host today. So in a couple of minutes, I'm going to transition my camera into behind the chair. We have a model here that I will do a gray coverage and color balancing on. And so when I'm away from my computer, Maurizio is basically going to help feed me the questions. So what I want to encourage more than anything is for you, if you're a new user, current user, you've been using it for a while, whatever the case is, any questions that come up, if I am unclear on something or maybe something didn't register, please utilize the chat box, and Maurizio will filter the questions to me so that I can make sure that the hour and a half that you're spending with us is quality and that you can actually walk away with some additional knowledge, whether it's the color line, whatever it is. And the only way that's going to happen is for you to utilize that chat box. So there is no stupid question. There is no mundane question. There is no, maybe I shouldn't ask it. What I found in my years of teaching is every single question has a benefit to it. So even if you think maybe it's not a relevant question, guaranteed somebody else on here may benefit from the answer to that question. So I do want to encourage you guys to use the chat box. And then I'm going to transition my camera right now to behind the chair. So stand by 1 second, guys. Let's see. Okay. Okay, you guys can see me, we're good?
Yes, very good.
Yes, okay. And I can hear you okay. So hi, everybody. Okay, so what today is going to look like, I'm gonna try to make this as smooth and as information filled as possible. So while I apply the color on my model, I'm going to bring her up in a second. I'm going to go over the whole color line. So I'm going to go over the history of the company, why Megix10 is different, how to mix it, how to process it, what makes it unique. And then I'm going to talk about all of the products that we have as well. So as I do that, again, just make sure that you utilize that chat box if you have any questions. What I want to do now is have Maurizio share pictures of our model. So I took some pictures of her this morning. While she comes up, if Maurizio, you can share those images, and you can come up, Milanka. Okay, so you guys can see she hasn't had her hair done in a while. She definitely has some gray. I would say she's probably about 70–80% gray. And okay, have a seat here. Okay, so get a good gauge of what those roots look like. She has short hair, but she has a lot of hair as well. So I'm going to try and get this application done quickly and effectively. So you guys can see, good candidate for Megix10 color. Okay, so as I'm getting her draped, I want to talk a little bit about just the history of Megix10 and what is it that makes Megix a little bit different. So typically what happens is when stylists If you have any experience with any other like 10-minute color, for example, there's some preconceived notions that come up in our minds, and sometimes it halts your creativity and wanting to play. So one of the things and one of the questions I get asked often is, how does this work in 10 minutes, which I'm going to cover. A lot of people will say, oh, well, because it's working in 10 minutes, is it more aggressive? And it's not. So it's not more aggressive. Megix10 is a very low in alkalinity hair color. A lot of people will have the concern of, oh, well, is it progressive? And it is not. One second, guys. I'm just going to change my camera here. Let's see. Can you guys see me okay? Because from what I'm seeing, my screen is not being spotlighted. What do you think, Mauricio?
It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, it's okay. All right. I just can't see. All right. Well, either way, where was I? Okay, so the progressive question. This is something that comes up so often, and that's because a lot of other 10-minute color lines can be known to be a little bit more progressive, and you don't have to worry about that with Megix10. So in 2011 is when Megix10 was first launched, and in true, what's the word I'm looking for? Because they're constantly evolving in technology and constantly wanting to be the leader in new technology. In 2015, there was a complete rebrand and relaunch of Megix10. And so since 2015, Megix10 has been in almost every single continent in the world. This is an international color line. They relaunched, so the color is not going to be progressive. It's not going to be damaging. It's actually very healthy for the hair. And that's because of the technology behind it. So I'm excited to get into that technology, but I want you guys to just kind of see, Mauricio already shared the pictures, but I want you to see what her hair looks like. So if you can look down, she's got about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of regrowth, faded ends, it's COVID hair at its finest. So my formula for this client is going to be very, very simple, okay? What I use on her is a 5 natural on her roots with 21 volume, and then I will color balance with a 6 natural on her ends. So I'm gonna start mixing that formula. But what I want you to, I guess, be aware of is if you have any experience with Megix, if you've seen our color swatch book, or if you've spoken to your rep about it, we have 2 different natural series, one of them being a 0.0 family and one of them being the 0.00. And so what I'm using on Milanka is the 0.0, which is a cooler natural. So typically what happens as stylists, when we see 0.00, go ahead and put it in the chat box. What do you guys automatically assume when you see a color family that is 0.00? Don't be shy. What are you guys thinking? When you see 0.00, you think?
Double pigment, additional pigment.
Double pigment, additional pigment, extra gray coverage. That's what I have to use if I'm doing gray coverage. And you guys, it is not the case with Megix10. So this is one of the most important things to consider, is that just because you have a lot of gray, that does not mean you have to use the 0.00, because in Megix color family, 0.00 just means intense natural. So what that means for you is that it is a warmer natural. So it's not going to give you that additional gray coverage. You don't need additional pigments with the way Megix10 is formulated. So just be mindful, because I've had a lot of stylists call me and they're just like, oh, well, I used the 0.00 and it was warm. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. So try and get out of that habitual thinking of, oh, 0.00 means extra pigment. Not the case with Megix10, okay? So for her, I'm using the 0.0 in a level 5. So it's a cooler natural. And before I do most of my gray coverage, I will spray Megix 1 Up. So if you guys don't know what Megix 1-Up is or what it's used for, it's very simply a pre-color treatment that you want to spray onto the hair liberally. So because I'm doing a full color on her, meaning I'm doing her roots and her ends, I am spraying all over, roots to ends, liberally. Okay, this is going to help with a couple of things. So what is in here, one of the ingredients is polyamine sugars. So if you have a client that has maybe a slight ammonia sensitivity, okay, this is going to help desensitize their scalp a little bit. If it also has Caraveg 18 in it. So what Caraveg 18 will do is help reconstruct the hair. It's also going to equalize the porosity of the hair. So this is something you want to use before you color, especially with gray hair, because we're reconstructing, we're equalizing the porosity, we're making sure that there's no scalp sensitivities. And all this is going to do is ensure a better color deposit. So either a better gray coverage, a better deposit, just in general. It's a great pre-treatment. And again, if you want the best results, you want to follow like the rules, right? So one of the things I want to cover, and this is just something that has come up in over the years of just being with hairdressers and being in classes, is as you guys saw, I was measuring right back here with my scale. I measured my color, I measured my developer. So what you want to do, guys, is be mindful. So this is a newer technology. Okay, I know there's a lot of you on here, and it's okay, you don't have to admit it, but that there's a lot of you who free pour, right? So we're not going to free pour our developer. Say it with me. I'm not going to free pour my developer. We're not going to eyeball, okay? We're not going to guesstimate. We are chemists, basically. You guys, we are working with chemicals, and hair coloring is a lot like baking. Every ingredient has to be measured perfectly. It's not like cooking where you're like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're going to get whatever results. That is not the case with hair color, guys. So I want to make sure that when you're utilizing Megix 10 for the best results, please measure your color. And I don't care if you're using a scale, I don't care if you're using a beaker, but you want to make sure that you are getting accurate measurements, because here's the thing. We are working, like I said, with chemicals. So what could potentially happen, and here's also a warning, I'm very OCD when it comes to my color and my clients. So think about for a second, what could happen if you add a little bit too much developer into your mixture. So with Megix 10, great coverage, our mixture is 1:1. So what happens if I accidentally put too much developer? Anybody know? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. Making you guys think this morning. What could happen if there's too much developer, too much oxidation in my color formula?
So no coverage, translucent result.
Yes. So not enough coverage and translucent results. So here's why, you guys. Let's talk chemicals just for a second, okay? Developer in the hair coloring process, what is the job of the developer? Number one, it is to develop the dyes. So if you put straight color on somebody's hair with no developer, it's not really going to do anything, okay? Because you need the oxidation, you need the oxygen from the developer in order to make that development happen. Number two job that developer or its job is to disturb melanin. So the oxygen in your developer is going to break up the melanocytes in the hair and create this undertone. So if you have too much developer in your formula, okay, it is going to create a little more undertone than what you're wanting, which is going to give you a sheer lighter canvas to deposit on. So when you deposit on that lighter canvas, your results may look a little bit more translucent. Your color is going to fade a lot more, and it's not going to fade on tone. So even if you put 1.5 of developer with the 20 volume and 1 part color, you have the chance of that happening. So if you're OCD like me and you want to make sure that you get the best results, you want to make sure that you measure. So let's take that the opposite direction. So what could happen if you don't put enough developer? So put your thinking caps on, guys. What could happen is if in your formula, you have more color than you do developer. Anybody? I can't see the screen.
The result goes darker.
The result will be darker. Why?
No longevity.
Because, what was that?
No longevity.
No longevity, correct. So if you're putting too much color in your process or in your formula, you're not measuring it and say you put half the more amount of color than you should have. So now your formula is overloaded with the pigment. So the developer is going to develop it, but you have a more heavy dye load. So when you have a more heavy dye load, what can happen is now your result is going to look a little bit more darker because there's more dye. So if you're, again, a little bit obsessive about making sure that your formulations are correct, you probably want to make sure that you measure. And I'm a big fan of understanding why we do the things we do. Sorry, I took your mask off for 1 second. Why we do what we do. So people are just like, well, I've been eyeballing for years and this is just how I do it. Well, that's fine if that's how you do it. But what I'm going to recommend is as a manufacturer, as manufacturer's directions, go ahead and measure. Okay, we want to make sure that we get the best results from the get-go, especially if you are newer to Magix. Okay, so as you guys saw, I made sure that I mixed really, really well, that I measured. And then the second thing is you want to make sure that you really mix your color well. As the years have gone on, and I've taken a lot of troubleshooting questions, especially with Magix. And one of the things that comes up sometimes is like I'll get a call and somebody will say, hey, I put the color on my client and only certain areas of her scalp were kind of tingling, but not all of it. And after doing a little bit of questioning, what ends up being the case is if you don't mix your color really well. And so what I mean by really well is you want to make sure there's no clumps of color, that there's no lumpiness in the mixture, that it is a creamy and smooth consistency. Because what do you think, before I tell you the answer, what do you think could happen if you have clumpy color? What could happen if your color is not mixed really well and there's little blobs of just hair color?
Patchy results, inconsistent deposit.
Okay, patchy results, inconsistent deposit. Those are absolutely things that can happen. What else?
Spotty coverage.
Spotty coverage. Yeah, all of those things. So, but the biggest thing for me, well, obviously all of that is important as well, but also what can happen is you guys have to understand hair color is alkaline, right? It's got the ammonia in the hair color. So if you don't mix all of it smooth and creamy, and you have little globs of hair color that is not mixed with the developer, you pick it up with your brush and you put the glob on the client's head and then you smear it to break it down. That hair color is going to release a little gas bubble of ammonia and cause tingling, cause a little bit of possible sensitivity. So again, I know sometimes we're working fast and we're trying to get clients in and out. But you just want to make sure that you try and make your guest's experience as pleasurable as possible. And you want to make sure that you're going to get the best results as possible. So again, measure your color, measure your developer, and make sure you mix it up really, really well before you apply on the client's head, especially if you know they have any kind of sensitivities. So I hope that that was helpful, because again, I know us hairdressers, we're funny sometimes and we do what we want to do. But then when we don't get the results that we want, what do? We blame the color, we blame the manufacturer, we blame, instead of just being like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I get the best results? So I just wanted to touch on that. What I want to cover next is the age-old question that comes up just about in every single class and every single webinar. Put your chin down just a little bit, please. Thank you. In every single webinar, people reach out to me all the time because I always talk about Magix. Is, well, Aras, how does it work in 10 minutes? Like, I don't understand. How does that work in 10 minutes? And it's a very good question. And like I said earlier, I am a big fan of knowing why things are the way they are, why they work the way they do, because then that makes you grounded and fully understanding what you're using and what you're doing, which then will bring confidence. So how does Megix10 work in 10 minutes? So one of the most important things that you want to know about Megix10 is that the dyes and the pigments that are used are micropigmented. So some of you may have heard that term tossed around in our industry, micropigments, micropigmented color. And I want to explain not only what that is, but why it's relevant in Megix10. So if you had, it's hard for me to do the visual because I'm coloring hair, but let's pretend that I had a hot cup of coffee in my hands and I have 3 different types of sugar, okay? So say I have hot coffee and I put a cube of sugar in my hot coffee. When I stir or when I agitate that hot cup of coffee, will the sugar melt easily or will I have to kind of stir a little bit? And the answer to that is you're gonna have to kind of stir. So say I use granulated sugar, like the little packets of sugar. What happens? I put it in my hot coffee and I have to still stir it. Not as much as a cube sugar, but I still have to kind of agitate it. Now, if I were to put powdered sugar in a hot cup of coffee, what would happen? Does anyone know? I know it wouldn't taste very good, but what would happen to the sugar that I put in that hot cup of coffee? I promise this is relevant, okay? Just hang with me. What would happen? Anybody?
Dissolve. It dissolves quickly.
Yes. It would dissolve quickly. So I don't have to do much because it will dissolve quickly. Why? Because the molecular weight of that sugar is smaller. So it will absorb into the coffee. So when you're talking about Megix10 and hair color, Megix10 dye molecules are going to be similar to that of powdered sugar. Not literally, but theoretically. So when the dye molecules are smaller in size and smaller in weight, they don't have to work as hard to get into the cortical fibers of the hair. Because anytime we are coloring hair, what happens is the alkalinity in your tube will soften and swell your cuticle. So it's going to open the hair up in order to accept color. So if the dye molecules are a lot smaller, you don't have to use this high alkalinity to try to pack in color. You need slight lift in order for the dye molecules to get to penetrate into the cortical fibers. So that's kind of like a good analogy for you to maybe understand how and what's so important about micropigments. But to take it a step further, to take it a step up, with Megix10, not only is it micropigmented, but we have the spectrum technology, which means that once the dyes are processing in the cortical fibers, they couple and combine. In layman's terms, you have a dye molecule and a dye molecule, and once they get into the cortex, they bind and couple to each other. They couple and bind to the cortical fibers of the hair. Because what often comes up when I talk about micropigments and this sugar analogy is that, hey, well, if the dyes are so small, won't they wash out just as fast as they got in there? And that's a really good question. But that's what makes Magix unique, is that once they're in the cortical fibers, they couple, they combine, and they become larger molecules, which means they're not going to fade as quickly. So for those of you who have used Megix10 and you formulate it properly, you'll notice that the fade is very minimal. And that's because once the dye molecules are in the cortical fibers, then everything is combining and it's one big happy hair color family in the hair. So that's a little piece of knowledge for you to either explain to your clients, because I know when I first started using Megix10, my clients were super excited and absolutely thrilled, but kind of like, wait, how does it but how does it do that, right? And so that's essentially how it does it. So it's one of the reasons on how this color works in just 10 minutes. Are there any questions on the micropigment?
So far, we have one question, but it is not about the micropigment, but it's about the gray coverage.
About the gray coverage. Okay. Well, let me see if I answer it during the presentation, and if not, we will have a break for a couple minutes that we can discuss that.
Okay.
So what's really important to share about Megix10 and kind of the benefits for you as a stylist is, and this was one of the things that brought me super on board with it, was not only did it have a lower processing time, it's a full color line. So so this is my studio. I just moved in here about a year ago. But previously, I had worked in hair salons as a booth renter. And for those of you that are chair renters or booth renters, what does the space that you have for your color, how big is it? Because I had a locker about like that big. So anybody else have very limited space in your color cabinet if you are a renter? Like I had to keep stock in my car because I had no space. If you feel me, put a little thumbs up in the chat box. And here's the point that I'm getting to is a lot of us stylists, and I've been in your salons, I've seen your color cabinets. This is usually how the story goes. So I use this color line because they have really, really good gray coverage. So I have a few of those with its developers. And then I use this color line because I really like their reds, and here's its developers. And then I have this color line for demi-permanent, and I have its developer, and then I have this color for semi, and then I use this for fashion. And so your locker, which is this big, is just like one of those, you see it in the movies, those closets where you like open it and everything just falls out with multiple color lines. So with Megix, like if you choose to, you don't need to carry 500 different color lines, right? So we have 86 shades to choose from. 86. If you're familiar with any other 10-minute color line, that's usually not the case, because here's the thing. Other 10-minute color is usually geared towards only gray coverage, or like in between appointments. It's usually not considered a full line. So when Megix10 had 80 shades at the time, they have 86 now, 80 shades, I was like, okay, wait a second. I can use this on everybody, right? And I do. So I have younger clients who don't have any gray, that like to be fiery red or mahogany or copper or golden or ash. And Megix gives you that creativity to be able to do every single client using Megix10 in that short processing time. So it's not only for gray coverage. We don't only have like 5 naturals, 3 ashes, and 2 golds. Full color line if you've seen the color book. So once I finish applying, I will share with you the swatch book, but it is a full color line. And now with the addition of Morph, which Maurizio shared a video early on before we got started, but I think he'll share another one while I'm washing her. Morph will take our whole color line, our whole permanent color line, and turn it into an acidic demi-permanent color line. So there really is no need, if you don't want to, carry 74 different lines, right? Because you have your permanent, you have your ultra lifts, you have your demi-permanent, you have acidic demi-permanent, all within the Megix10 family. So Mila, look up for me 1 second. I want to make sure that I have the front hairline covered well. You guys noticed that I started in the front hairline. And obviously the reason for that is that she has, she's most gray in the front hairline. So a little tip for you, if you have a lot of gray hair clients, if your client has fine hair, what you don't want to do is start in the front. Because what can happen is if their hair is very, very fine and you apply here first, think about it. Fine hair has a smaller diameter in cortex, which means it will always look darker, period. So if you put a 6 on it, it can look like a 5. If you put a 5 on it, it could look like a 4. So on finer hair, you don't want to over deposit or over process. So what I do normally on clients with fine hair is this very front hairline I leave out. I do the whole head, and then I come in and do this very front hairline last. This is only if their hair is fine. If their hair is medium, coarse, resistant, or very gray, in that area, that's where I usually will start. So little tip for you. So I'm making sure that I have a good saturation. If you guys can see, I know it's kind of far, but my section sizes are very, very small. So I've seen people cover or do roots with section sizes about this big. Let's see if you guys can see. Okay, that is not going to get you the coverage that you're looking for. Okay, so it's important to not only paint, okay, take a small, thin section and paint the underneath. Okay, so when you're doing great coverage and you want superior results, there's little things that we can all do to make sure that we get these results that we're looking for. So now that I have her root color on, I want to recap the formula. So I used our 5.0, which is level 5 Cool Natural, 1-to-1 with 21 volume. Now for her ends, I want to refresh and still keep a little bit of dimension. So this is something I do often with my clients is I will mix up a demi. So I'm going to use a level 6.0, which is level 6 Cool Natural, excuse me, with our Fix developer. I'm going to get into that in a second, and Morph to make it a demi. And I will do like a reverse balayage. So let me get that mixed up. Has anyone here used Morph yet? Anybody use Morph?
Yes, they are already using here in Europe, and they are all so happy with.
They're also happy with it. Anyone in the US yet or not yet?
Not everywhere. Yes, not everywhere.
Okay. So with Morph, I'm going to mix, let's see here, 40 grams of color. So we have a whole video series on Morph to really get into the nitty-gritty on the different mixing and ratios for it. But I'm using it as a semi-permanent on a level 6 and below. So whatever color level you're using, so if you're using our high lift, you would need to add more Morph versus a deeper, darker color, less Morph. Because think about it this way. Ultralift blondes are highly or slightly more alkaline than like a level 5 or a level 6. So the purpose of Morph is to drop down the alkalinity, help acidify your formula, so it makes it more of a true acidic deposit only. And so when high lift or level 9 or 10, you're going to need to use more Morph than you would in a level 6. So the mixing ratio for level, I believe, 7 and below with Morph is going to be for every 20 grams of color, you're going to add 1 gram of Morph. So I put 40 grams of color in my bowl, so I will add 2 grams of Morph to my formula. There we go. And now going back to my 40 grams of color, because I am mixing with Fix, I'm making this a demi-permanent solution. I'm going to mix 1 part color to 1.5 parts developer. So if I have 40 grams of color, we're putting the Morph aside. Okay, if I have 40 grams of color, how much developer do I need to put to make it 1.5 to 1? Get your math brain on this morning. What are you guys saying? Bingo, 60 grams. So I will now add 60 grams of Fix. So be mindful, you guys, Fix is basically 6 volume. So Fix is a 6 volume. This is what you're going to mix with any of our colors to make it a demi-permanent. And if you want to make it an acidic demi, you're going to add Morph. So I'm going to add my 60 grams of developer. Okay. 60 grams of developer to the mix. Now it is still a creamy consistency. And what I'm gonna do, and actually what you should know, when you mix Morph, it does slightly change the viscosity of your color. So it makes it a little bit less creamy. So it's a lot easier to apply if you want to use this in the shampoo bowl to quickly apply a toner. It's a lot easier to apply. A huge benefit of Morph is that it does help reduce the smell of ammonia. So it reduces that uncomfortable smell as well. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm sure there's a lot of people who do this. Maybe there isn't. So maybe you can get something out of this. She was traumatized. One time we did her color as an all over, and I had an assistant at the time. And long story short, we had the wrong formulation and it was very, very dark. And so all her color was one color. It was very dark. Do you remember that? And she's like, this was like 6 or 7 years ago. To this day, she's like, don't make it all one color. Don't make it all one color. So what we do, I will never forget that. So what we do now is I do her roots, and then I will go in and do a chunky weave, okay? Kind of something like this. Let's turn you around so you guys can see. See, I can't see the camera. And I will pull through every other section kind of like that. So what this is doing is it's depositing on some of her hair, but it's still keeping a little bit of dimension so she doesn't look like it's a wig, like all one color. And it's fun because she's got a lot of layers in her hair. So it adds texture, it adds dimension without me having to go in and foil, right? So this is kind of like a reverse balayage, a way to add depth and dimension. But what's nice is with Morph, I know it's an actual acidic demi, so it's not doing any kind of damage to her hair. So not only is it acidifying, but Megix10 in every single tube of color. Okay, so in every single bottle of developer, we have what's called Caraveg 18. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. And what Caraveg 18 is a complex, or not a complex, it's a mixture of different amino acids and proteins to help in reconstructing the hair during the coloring process. So what that means is, so it's not a bond builder. That's not what this is doing. I almost refer to it as a mask in the hair. So it's got arginine, threonine, soy protein, wheat protein. And what this does is during the hair coloring process, it will help in reconstructing the hair. So for those of you who have used Magix already, and you notice, come this way a little bit, thank you. You've noticed that the hair feels shinier or looks amazing, looks healthier. That's because of the Caraveg 18. So Caraveg 18 is also, like I said, in every tube of color. So while I'm transforming this color into a gentle acidic color, I'm also infusing the hair with Caraveg 18. So with everything Magix, with everything Moan, the hair's health is priority, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I can't work on damaged hair. And so if I know that every time I'm applying on my client that I am ensuring the integrity of the hair, that's a huge win for me in my book. And I get more consistent results when the hair is healthier. I get a better deposit when the hair is healthier. So Morph really upped the game for me to where I don't need an acidic demi anymore. So it's very, very, very helpful. So I'm going to stop on that and see if we can take any questions, if there are any questions yet. Maurizio, I can take them while I do this.
Yes, we do. Yes. So which is the color selection when Patreon has from 75% to 100% of gray hair?
What is the color selection? When what?
Client has 75 to 100% gray hair.
Well, it really depends on the desired end result. So what level do they want to be? I can't really give you a formula, but if you're asking for how much maybe 0.0 to add, because any of our colors will give you gray coverage if it's under 25% gray. So if you have a client that's under 25% gray, you will get coverage from any of our colors. You don't have to balance it out with a natural or a neutral. But as you move into higher percentages of gray, you want to start adding a little bit more of the either 0.0, 0.00, just some to balance out the amount of gray. So when you're dealing with somebody that's got 75 to 100% of white hair, you want to do at least 50% of your formula in a natural, intense natural. You could even use the 0.7, which is a warm brown. So it kind of depends on the end result that you're looking for. It's difficult to formulate, but I will say this, guys, and I say this in every webinar. I'll have Maurizio share my Instagram link if you don't already have it. If you have any formulation questions or you kind of want to bounce a formula idea, I will always, always, always happily help you out. Just reach out to me on Instagram. It's easier for me to see the head of hair if you're wanting some formulation help. But if the question was regarding how much natural to add, in that case, at least 50%. I hope that was the question. Was that the question?
No. So far, this is a unique question.
Oh, that was it?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. What was that?
No, it's okay.
Okay, very cool. So we covered the micropigment technology, right? Remember, the color molecules are smaller in size, smaller in weight, and they couple and combine in the hair to help this 10-minute process happen. We've covered Caravage 18. So Caravage 18 is the complex that is in every tube of color, in every bottle of developer, in every product that we have, and that helps in reconstructing the hair and making sure that we have a nice canvas to work on. What I want to cover next is kind of our developers, right? This is another question that gets asked very often of like, why are the developers 12, 21, 32, and 40? Why not 10, 20, 30, 40? So when we talk about developers and their job, right? We were talking about it earlier. The developer's job is to help oxidize the color, to develop the dye, and to help break up melanin in the hair. And its job is to deliver these dyes. So you guys have maybe heard it before that oxygen or developer is like the gas. It drives the dye into the cortex, and it does. Can you put your chin down just a little? Thank you. And so because of the micropigment technology and how this color works in 10 minutes, our developers have slightly more oxygen in them. So not enough to cause damage, but they're slightly more oxygenated. And the reason that that's important, and this is kind of a two-sided remark, is you want to make sure that you use our developers with our color, because you need slightly a little bit more of that oxygen, the gas, right? The drive to help these micropigment dyes get into the cortex of the hair in order for this process to happen in 10 minutes. Okay, hold on one second. Hey Siri, set a timer for 8 minutes. Okay. 8 minutes and counting. This thing is so handy. Okay, so I went ahead and finished applying her reverse balayage with the 6N. And so we're going to process her for 8 minutes. And then once that happens, we will take a break. Maurizio is going to share some videos. But while that's happening, again, with our developers, hairdressers, we are funny, right? We do what we want to do. And there are some of you who might be testing it with other developers. And I'm just here to say that if you want to get the best results, right, use our developers, because they are literally made in order for this 10-minute color process to happen as seamlessly as possible. So we have our fix, which is a 6 volume. This is what you're going to use if you want to transform our color line into a permanent alkaline demi solution. If you want to do gray blending, if you want to do a permanent deposit only, that's when you would use 12 volume. So you would mix your formula with 12 volume. It could softly blend like little sparkly grays, and it could act like a permanent or an alkaline root melt. You're not going to get much lift using a 12 volume. When you're using our color for gray coverage or standard permanent color, you would use 21 volume. If you want to get a little bit more lift. So I'm not going to say if you're going to get 2 to 3 levels of lift because it depends on the hair. But the higher the developer, the higher the oxygen, the more melanin that you're going to expose. The more melanin that you expose, the lighter the undertone that you're creating. So if you want to create a little bit more brightness, a little bit more lightness, then you would use the 32 volume. Okay. And then we also have 40 volume. We didn't go above 40. And the 40 volume is what you're going to use if you are using our Ultra Lift families. Then you would mix double 40 with those. So that's just a brief coverage on the developers and how they're used. I want to talk quickly mixing ratios. People tend to overcomplicate the mixing ratios, and I get it, right? If you're new to this line, it could seem maybe slightly overwhelming because it's a lot of information. And just what I want to just kind of hammer in is, you guys, it's still hair color. Okay, it still behaves like hair color. The laws of hair color will never change. The chemicals will always do what they're gonna do. It's just got a different technology. So when you start getting overwhelmed and like, oh shoot, like this is like, calm down a little bit and just recognize that it's still hair color. Okay, so as far as the mixing ratios, anytime you're doing a permanent application, so if you're using 12, 21, 32 volume developers, you're gonna mix 1 to 1. So like I did with her color, 40 grams of color, 40 grams of developer, equal parts, that's your permanent, okay? If you're gonna use the fix as a developer, so say you wanna create a demi-permanent, either alkaline or acidic. Acidic, you add morph, alkaline, you don't. If you wanna create a demi-permanent result, you're gonna use fix. Fix is a 6 volume, and the mixing ratio for that is 1 to 1.5. So why the 1.5? Okay, developer is slightly more acidic. So when you add more developer to your formula, it will help slightly acidify it to make sure you're not going to get as much lift. So when you're doing a demi or deposit only, you want less lift, more deposit. So the more developer you add, the more it will acidify your color. So that's why you're going to do 1 to 1.5. And then the other category that we have is our Ultra Lift blondes. So if you're going to use our Ultra Lift blondes, that is going to be double 40. So it's very standard in our industry. You mix 1 part of color, 2 parts of 40 volume. Okay. Our standard mixing and or timing, you guys, everything just about is 10 minutes. So if you're doing anything that's permanent, it's 10 minutes. If you're doing anything that is a demi-permanent, deposit only, alkaline demi, acidic demi, anything that is in the deposit only family, your mixing time or your timing is going to be 5 to 8 minutes. And in that window, you're watching the hair. So if you're using our Ultra Lift blondes and you're using it as a toner, okay, you might get the deposit you want in 5 minutes. You might have to wait 8 minutes. It's a visual in that window of 5 to 8 minutes. And then our Ultra Lift blondes are the only family that process longer. And if you guys are using Ultra Lift blondes that are not Megix, go ahead in the chat box. Tell me how long you have to process it for. Because I've used Ultra Lifts my whole career, and I want to know if we're on the same page. So how long are you guys processing your Ultra Lifts?
45 minutes. 45. 45, 60.
Yeah, 45 to 60. If you're using a non-ammonia or non-alkaline or non-ammoniated color, you're looking at more 60 to 70. So it's a while that you typically have to process. And with Megix, you guys, it's 20 minutes. It's literally 20 minutes. You get your full deposit and a slight or a full lift and a slight tonal shift, depending on what color you use, in the 20-minute mark. So it's pretty unique there if you are a high lift user. I believe Maurizio has a video with our Ultra Lift blondes to see how it works.
I do.
Just like magic. Milanka, I'm going to have you sit over there really quickly, please. I want to cover in the couple minutes before we take our break for me to wash her, I want to cover our color book, but are there any questions that I can address
Yes,
right now, Maurizio?
there are some questions about the ultra bonds. So one is why they are so fast. So how they can lift up 3 to 4 levels in only 20 minutes.
So the way high lift and ultra lift blondes typically work is they're more alkaline. And out of our whole color line, the ultra lift blondes are the most alkaline color that we have at, I believe, what is it, 2.7%, Maurizio?
Oh, yeah, the percentage of ammonia is 2.7.
Yeah, so that's how much ammonia is in our ultra lift blondes. So again, it goes into the spectrum technology and the additional 2.7% of alkalinity plus the double 40. So you're mixing double, you're adding more developer. So remember in the beginning when I asked you guys, what happens if you mix too much developer into your formula? And you guys said you're gonna get a inconsistent whatever, or inconsistent deposit. I don't remember some of the other answers, but you're going to create more undertone. So when you combine the power of double 40 and you marry it with the alkalinity in the ultra lift blondes, you are getting a faster result. So it's a combination of the higher alkalinity and the double 40 oxygen to make that lift and tone happen. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Another question is, so will the morph eliminate the possibility of lifting the natural when using ultra lift or any other light level?
Yes. So I believe the question was, will morph eliminate the lifting or shifting that could happen when you're using ultra lifts as a toner? Did I get that right?
Yes, this is the question, yes.
Okay, so what can happen is if you use an ultra lift or a high lift as a toner and you mix it with Fix, it is still an alkaline product that could cause a lift or a shift. So when you mix with Morph, it fully acidifies the formula. So you are getting a true acidic deposit only. So you don't have to worry about the warm band that can come up when you're toning. That's our timer, by the way. The warm band that's coming up when you're toning or exposing some sort of undertone, like none of that is going to happen because Morph acidifies your formula. Which is why I was saying early on, it's such a game changer because I can actually use Magix for every color need that I have now. Whereas before I didn't have the solution for an acidic, a true acidic demi. Now I do. So, so yeah, Morph will help eliminate that. So Maurizio's going to share a couple of videos. I'm going to go to the back and shampoo and dry my model. So it's going to take probably about 15, maybe 20 minutes. I'll try to do it quickly. And make sure, guys, when you're watching the videos, again, any questions, put it in the chat box, and I will be back in about 15 minutes, okay? I'm going to turn off my camera and mute. And Maurizio, you take it away. Megix Morph is an acid toner transformer with CareVeg18, transforming any Megix10 hair color into a gentle acidic color. By using Morph, you can achieve a true acidic demi-permanent color. And using Morph will help enhance the reflect of the chosen shade and also eliminate any oxidative power. Say goodbye to unwanted warmth during toning when you use Morph with Megix10. Morph will help lower the pH level of Megix10, transforming it into a delicate demi-permanent color with zero lightening properties. Hi, I'm Araz Nelson, educator with Moan, and today I'm very excited to share with you some information about our Ultra Lift Blonde family with Megix10. Our Ultra Lift Blonde family is unlike any other high lift color on the market because it processes in just 20 minutes. Yes, lift and toning in just 20 minutes, saving colorists at least 30 minutes in processing time. No need to worry about being too aggressive on the hair or causing any kind of damage thanks to CareVeg18, which is a proprietary blend of amino acids, soy and wheat proteins and helps in maintaining the integrity of the hair and creating lustrous shine, durability, and color longevity. Megix10 Ultra Lift Blondes can give you 3 to 4 levels of lift when mixed with Double 40 Developer, and can be used as a toner when mixed with Fix, which is a 6-volume developer. When using the Ultra Lifts, it's important to consider who is a good candidate for an Ultra Lift Blonde service. The ideal client for a Ultra Lift Blonde color application is somebody who is naturally a level 6 and above, has fine to medium textured hair, was naturally a sandy blonde or a blonde as a child, and somebody who doesn't mind a little bit of warmth. If you're looking for a neutral to warmer result, you could use the 100, which is a neutral background, the 103, which is a gold background, or the 104, which is a strawberry beige background. Our model today, in my opinion, is the perfect candidate for an Ultra Lift blonding service. The first thing that I will do is determine her natural level, starting in the back where her hair is naturally the darkest. I pulled a 7.0 and an 8.0 and determined that her natural level is closer to an 8. The formula that I decided to use for her was equal parts of 100 and 103, a natural tone and a golden tone. Because she likes her hair to be on the warmer side, this is the perfect formula for her. As you can see when I'm mixing the color, using Double 40 gives me a very creamy consistency that's super easy to apply. Before any application, I spray on Magix 1-Up Spray, which has Caraveg 18, niacin, polyamine sugars, and this will help with shine, longevity of color, and also with any scalp sensitivities. When it comes to applying an Ultra Lift Blonde, I always recommend starting in the back of the head where the hair is the darkest. Make sure and take small sections and saturate heavily, and always remember, set your timer 20 minutes. Once my timer goes off, I always check the results before I shampoo. It's always recommended to use the Megix10 shampoo and conditioner when shampooing your clients because the Caraveg 18 formula is also in the shampoo and conditioner. Once your client is shampooed and conditioned, we recommend spraying the color defining spray all over. This will help not only detangle the hair, but will also help acidify the hair after a coloring service. As I'm drying and styling, you can see that her color lifted absolutely beautifully and is a great match to her ends. One of the reasons I love the Ultra Lift Blondes from Megix10, despite the fact that it processes in 20 minutes, is that it is a lift and tone in one step, making my life as a stylist significantly easier. And there you have it, guys. 3 levels of lift in just 20 minutes using Megix10 Ultra Lift Blondes. Quick formula recap. I mixed equal parts of 100 and 103 with Double 40 volume and processed for just 20 minutes. Her hair looks incredibly beautiful and shiny. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure to follow us on social. Until next time, this is Araz, and happy hair coloring. Hello everybody, Araz Nelson here, lead educator with Moan, and today I'm super excited to introduce you to the newest member of the Moan International family, Morph. Magix Morph is an acid toner transformer with Caraveg 18, transforming any Megix10 hair color into a gentle acidic color. So today I'm excited to share with you and show you how to use Morph with our Ultra Lift Blondes family to create a gorgeous toner on our model, Alyssa. What we've done so far is pre-lightened her to a level 910 pale yellow. And I'm gonna use our Ultra Lift family along with Morph to tone down some of this warmth. I'm choosing to use 108. Now, when it comes to mixing Morph with the Ultra Lift Blonde family, what you wanna do is mix 15 grams of the Ultra Lift Blonde and 2 grams of Morph. So I'm gonna pour 15 grams of 108 in my bowl, 22 grams of Fix Developer, because I'm mixing 1.5 to 1. And then I will add 2 grams of Morph. What this is gonna do is help acidify the formula. And 2 grams of Morph. So by adding the Morph into my formula, one of the benefits of it is it does reduce the smell of the ammonia. So sometimes with a permanent toner, what can happen is because of the alkalinity, you can get something like a base bump. But the cool thing about Morph is when I mix it into my formula, it's going to eliminate the possibility of that happening. So I'm getting a true acidic deposit only effect. Clients typically like the front to be a little bit brighter and for it to pop. So a good way to avoid getting rid of that pop is to tone it last. I'm excited to show you the reveal of our model today. Just a quick formula recap. I mixed 1 part of 108 to 1.5 parts of Fix, which is our 6-volume developer. And I mixed it. So I'm excited to show you the reveal of our model today. Just a quick formula recap. I mixed 1 part of 108 to 1.5 parts of Fix, which is our 6-volume developer. And I used Morph in that formula. By the looks of it, her hair looks and feels so much healthier. And the 108 helped to refine some of that warmth that was exposed during the lightening process. I think she looks absolutely incredible, and her hair looks and feels a lot healthier and shinier. So I hope you found this video helpful. As always, please make sure to follow us on social media. And until next time, happy hair coloring. My name is Araz Nelson, educator with Moan, and today I want to share with you how you can service 10 root touch-up clients in 1 day without double booking using Megix10. When your first client comes in, give 5 minutes to get them caped and draped and mix up your formula. Now, Megix10 has 86 shades to choose from, so your creativity is pretty limitless when it comes to formulating for any client. Once you've chosen your formula and mixed your color, we move on to application. Megix has a super rich and creamy consistency, and it's super easy to get onto the hair. So give about 10 minutes for application, give or take a couple of minutes depending on your speed. At that point is when the fun begins. You set your timer for 10 minutes. Yes, full gray coverage is possible in 10 minutes due to spectrum technology. What that means is the dyes are micropigmented and they couple and combine a lot quicker, allowing for a faster processing time. Once your timer is up, that client has now been with you for 25 minutes. Give yourself another 5 minutes to shampoo and towel dry their hair, and at that point, they could be done. A 30-minute appointment. Now, if you're anything like me, I don't like my clients leaving with wet hair, so I typically give myself an additional 15 minutes for a quick blowout and style, making that a 45-minute appointment. Now take that and compare it to traditional or ordinary color, which a root touch-up with traditional ordinary color is anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half appointment. So you are saving approximately 25 minutes, give or take, using Megix10 versus traditional ordinary hair color. When you take that and repeat that throughout the day, it is possible for you to see 10, sometimes even more clients in one day using Megix10. So when we do finally get the opportunity to open our doors and experience the surge, just remember that it is possible for you to do a root touch-up client in 45 minutes. In the meantime, guys, stay safe, stay sane, and happy hair coloring. Thank you for watching. Hi, I'm Araz, educator with Moan, here to talk about Megix10 hair color. Today I'm really excited to introduce Megix10 hair color, what makes it unique and different, how you can use it and mix it, and ultimately how you can revolutionize your business using Megix10. With over 86 colors to choose from in a permanent, a demi-permanent, ultra lift blonde, and toner, this color line truly is a colorist's color line. One of the greatest tools that Megix10 offers is the color wheel in the color book. So when you're going to choose whatever target shade you want to use on your client, stylist, it's very important to refer to the color wheel so that you understand the background tone of every color that we offer. What's great about this particular color wheel is every single color is placed on the color wheel depending on background and tone. It's a really great tool to use when you're formulating. Megix10 offers spectrum technology, which basically means that we are using lower levels of ammonia and smaller micropigments to combine quicker and allow a 10-minute processing time. One of the unique benefits of Megix10 is the 18 amino acid complex called Rebrand. And Rebrand is a unique blend of 18 different plant-based amino acids that are found in every tube of hair color, and their job is to maintain the integrity of the hair and keep the hair looking healthy and shiny and brilliant. Because of its low processing time, only 10 minutes, we are actually offering our clients the opportunity to reduce their exposure to chemicals. And by reducing their exposure time to chemicals, there is actually a 70% less chance of a chemical reaction occurring. It's important to know that when using Megix10 hair color, you will get 100% gray coverage, but always be mindful of the laws of color. So it is recommended to add either a natural or intense natural to some of your formulas, especially when a client has over 50% gray. Stylists, when it comes to the natural series, Megix10 offers two different natural series. We have a cool natural and a warm natural. 0.00 simply means warm natural. It has a yellow-orange background tone versus 0.0 being a cool natural, yellow-green background tone. When using Megix10 for gray coverage, it's important to use 21 volume to get the best gray coverage. As you can see, we have our beautiful model who has over 50% gray. The formula I'm choosing for her is our new color family, the 6.11, which is a level 6 double ash, and I will be mixing equal parts of 6.11 with 6.0, which is our level 6 cool natural. As always with gray coverage, 21 volume is recommended. Before I start her color application, I will spray her scalp and hair with Megix 1-Up. This is a unique product enriched with Rebrand, niacin vitamins, and polyamine sugars. As you can see when I'm mixing this color, it is incredibly creamy and very easy to apply on the client. When doing the application, it's always important to start in the grayest and most resistant areas first. For this client in particular, we're starting in the front hairline. Once I've finished my application, I will set my timer for 10 minutes. Excluding the high lift blondes, which can be used as a toner, The other 80 shades in the color line can be used as a permanent or a demi-permanent light, depending on your developer and mixing ratio. Once my timer is up, I will check for coverage and take her to the shampoo bowl. So as you guys can see, our finished result, our model got 100% gray coverage. Just a formula recap, I used 6.11, which is 6 double ash, 6.0, which is 6 cool natural, equal parts with 21 volume. I love that this processed in 10 minutes, so your clients can be in and out within an hour, ultimately doubling your income or seeing less clients making the same amount of money. This has 100% revolutionized my business. I love the results I get using Megix. The Caravage 18 provides incredible shine, and I think she just looks so fabulous. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. This is Araz. Make sure to follow us on social, and happy hair coloring. Okay, welcome back, guys. Can you guys hear me and see me? Mic is good?
Yes, I think it's good.
Okay, so you guys got to watch the transition of all my different hairstyles over the over the last few videos. Okay, so as you can see, we are done with my model. I went ahead and took some photos to Maurizio, and he is going to share them on screen so you guys can see the coverage. Let me have you look down. I might bring the camera a little bit closer if he can't get those pictures up. Are you able to do that? Let's see. There we go. Okay, so you guys can see that we got amazing gray coverage, and see how by doing a level lighter in the demi-permanent and pulling it through almost like a reverse balayage, she even said, she's like, it looks like I have highlights. So I'm all about working smarter, not harder. So if I can make my client look like they have highlights without me having to actually put highlights in, I am super okay with that. So we got great coverage, great gray coverage, and you guys can see the dimension in her hair. Her hair looks amazing, feels shiny. And just quick formula recap for you guys. We did a 5 cool natural on her root with 21 volume. And I used a level 6.0, level 6 cool natural with fix and morph through her ends, almost like a reverse balayage, just to give her hair some dimension. Because remember, I told you she's traumatized from it being all one color. So this just looks like I've done some highlights and lowlights on her, and we got amazing, amazing gray coverage. So yeah, those are all the pictures, guys. Super happy with the result. As always, Megix makes my life so much easier. And again, we have, I mean, it's been about 50 minutes since we started, maybe about an hour since we started her application. And typically I could do this a little bit faster, but because I am, you know, sharing information and talking, it took a little bit longer in my application. So you could typically get this done in a 10 to 15 minute application window, then dropping your time per client. So I hope that was helpful. I'm gonna say thank you to you for being our beautiful model. I appreciate you. So I'm gonna let her go, and then we'll cover a couple of more topics here. What's happening? There we go. Very cool. Thank you, Mila. Oh, all right. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Yes, we
so
do.
far?
Just a second, because someone asked to watch the after picture again.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also the before pictures. Okay. Okay, so we have some questions. Okay. So this is a question that
I get to sit in the client's chair. Huh?
Okay, yes, perfect. So one question from Raquel is, I have noticed that I have white tubes and dark gray tubes in my orders, but this is just a new packaging, but the formula inside is the same. And also Raquel asked to you, can Ultra Lift go on Scalp?
Yes. Okay. So like Mauricio said, the dark tubes is just new packaging. So there has not been any reformulation at all. So what you have in your white tubes is exact same as what I have in these dark gray tubes. And then as far as the Ultra Lift Blondes, can you put them on scalp? Absolutely. So they are designed to be used on scalp. Double 40 is going to be your mixing ratio for that, and it's 20-minute processing time. So whatever formula you choose, because our Ultra Lifts, there's 6 different colors to choose from. So this very bottom row right here, so they have different tonalities to them. So there's an ash.
Sorry, can you show it again because it was too light?
Let's see.
No.
There
Yes,
we go.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so 6 different colors to choose from. So there's a little bit, there's a natural, an ash, a violet, a gold, a strawberry, and a beige. So what this will do is help refine some of the undertones that come up when we are doing Ultra Lift blonding. But be mindful, guys. So if your client has hair like me and you do Ultra Lift blonde with double 40, it will not look like the swatch book. Okay, that's a whole lot of lightening that has to happen, and bleach and lift 9 would probably be a better option. But if you have a client that's say like a level 7, especially if they have finer hair, Ultra Lifts are a great option for those because you'll get 3 to 4 levels of lift on scalp application double 40. What Ultra Lift Blondes in Megix10 will not do is cover gray. So if you have a client that has, yes.
Sorry, can you please remove the chart from the microphone because it's making noise?
Oh,
he's touching the microphone, yes.
My bad. My bad. Okay, so what Ultra Lift Blondes, thank you for that, Maurizio. So what the Ultra Lift Blondes will not do is cover gray. So if you have a client that has gray and wants the gray covered, Ultra Lift Blondes will not do that. Okay, so what could happen, now if you want to play, you're absolutely entitled to play. But what could happen is say you use the 102, okay, which is a violet tonality to the Ultra Lift. That violet could deposit onto the white hair and not actually cover it because there's no brown, there's no neutral. It's just alkalinity and a little bit of tonality. So gray coverage is a no-go with the Ultra Lift Blondes. Just speaking from personal experience here.
Okay, so would you say that the line is pretty true to tone?
I would say that the line is very true to tone. Now, here is where some people could get a little wonky. It depends on what you're using and what you're comparing it to. So this is something that I talk about often is, so with hair color, you guys, there is no standard level 6 is a level 6 is a level 6 across all of the lines. That's not the case because it's not standardized. So really depending on what you're used to using, this can be, Megix10 can be slightly lighter, slightly darker, slightly cooler, slightly warmer. So my best advice to you, and I would recommend it to anybody, anytime you're trying a new color line and trying to move formulas over from one to the next, match it swatch for swatch. So don't just assume, hey, I use a 6N with Redken, so I'm going to use a 6.0 with Magix. You might not get the results that you're looking for. So what I recommend is take your 6N swatch from Redken, okay? And then take the 6.0 swatch from Magix and put them next to each other and see tonality-wise, level-wise, saturation-wise, are they similar? Or do you maybe have to use a 5 in Magix to make it look like a 6 in Redken or Schwarzkopf or whatever the case? So I always say level 6 is not a level 6 across the board. So in my opinion, it's true to tone, but what are you comparing it to? So the best way, compare it swatch for level and tone. So if you have a red from one line and you want to try and match it with one of our reds, take your swatch, put it next to ours, and figure out what looks the most similar. Because what could happen is if you're just assuming, you could get into some formulation trouble. So I've had many calls about this, and the best way to transition is to either swatch the colors yourself, which a lot of people aren't willing to do, and that's fine. So if you're not going to swatch them and see what the colors look like, then at least match the swatches next to each other so you have a better gauge of the nuances in the different color lines. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, so we do not have any other questions.
No other questions?
No other questions.
Oh.
So you were so good explaining everything.
Oh, oh my gosh, yes, amazing. Okay, so I do want to just show you guys our color swatch book if you haven't seen it, just to show the complexity of all the different colors that we have. So we have our natural, we have an ash, gold, double ash, sand, which is like a beige, maroon, that's like a warm brown. We have intense red, we have violet, we have mahogany. I mean, everything that you could need is covered in the Megix10 line. I want to just quickly go over a couple of families. So one family is going to be the Fantasy series, which is this top row right here. And a lot of people get tripped up on the Fantasy series. And honestly, you guys, it's just like every other color that we have. They're just pre-blended. So what's happened is they've made, for example, a 7.40. So level 7, copper, natural. They're just blended colors. So you use them exactly the same as the rest of the line. They're just pre-made for you. Okay. That's the only thing that's different about them is they're already mixed instead of you mixing and matching different colors. Okay. The next topic that I want to talk about is our enhancers or the intensifiers. In my opinion, the most underused colors in our industry. Our intensifiers are made to be mixed in with any of the color families to help enhance, neutralize, harmonize, and to really create a custom color formulation for your client. So we have all the primaries, the secondaries, and an ash. These don't have a level to them, okay? So you have to use your common hairdresser sense and think, like, for example, let's look at this blue, and it's going to be hard to tell because the lighting and the ring light. So what level would you put that at if it did have a level? What would you guys think?
Seven, 6.
Again, my lighting is poop. So to me, that looks closer to a level 3 or a 4. Okay. Yeah, if you see it in person, similar to a 3 or a 4, because to me, the red or the orange is closer to a 6 or 7. So let me put the two next to each other so you can see the difference in saturation.
Maybe
I don't know if that helps. No.
It's worse. It's worse.
That's better, no?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a lot lighter. This is a lot darker visually. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this. They don't have a level to them because they are made to mix into all of the other color families. But be mindful. So if you decide that the blue is closer to a level 4 and you want to use a 10 ash on somebody and you want to add a little bit of blue to it, how much blue are you going to add? Right? So be mindful of that. You probably want to add very little because what can happen is it can drop in tonality and make it appear darker. So just keep that in mind if you're using the enhancers, like this looks like a 7. So if I'm mixing it into a formula with a level 7, up to half of your formula can be an enhancer. Okay, so your mixing ratio up to half, but just be careful and be cautious depending on the level that you're mixing and the depth of the enhancer. Okay, the enhancers are oxidative. So what that means is they come out of the tube white and creamy, just like the rest of the color. It's not a direct dye. So when you pull it into your bowl, it's white and creamy. It oxidizes to whatever color you chose, which means it needs developer. So say you mix 20 grams of a 5 natural and you mix 20 grams of the red enhancer, then you would mix 40 grams of developer. So it's the same mixing ratio as your color. Some people have used these on their own. And what I mean by on their own is just the enhancer and developer, not mixed in with another color. What I will say is they're not a direct dye. I said that before. So you're not going to get the same result as you would if you were to use Pure Shades, for example. Pure Shades is our direct dye line. It's a different kind of color, but you can use the enhancers on their own if you want to fill somebody's hair, which I do sometimes. Like I'll use it as a filler, as an anchor, and then I put on top of it a permanent color. You can mix it in with any of your colors to enhance, harmonize, neutralize, but they are there for you to play. And that's why I say they're the most underused, because you can truly customize your formulas with those enhancers because they have no brown. They don't have a level. They are just true tone. And it's a lot of fun playing with the enhancers and making up different formulas. So that's my little 2 cents of use the enhancers. They're amazing. So we covered the fantasy series, we covered the enhancers, and we've covered the ultra blondes. The one last thing, I think there was the video on this, but the color wheel, you guys, we all know this, but this is going to be your biggest saving grace when you transition, when you choose your colors, when you decide how to formulate. Use this as your tool, because every color that we have is actually put on the color wheel based on their tonality. So you'll see our 0.0 family is right. I know you can't really see it. Let me see if I can get closer. So you'll see 0.0 is in the yellow green and 0.00 is more yellow orange. So when you're formulating, just check the color that you have and check and see where it lives on the color wheel to make sure that you're getting the accurate formulations. Okay, that's like the biggest help when you're transitioning into a new color line. Are there any other questions?
Yes, we have some questions. So how would I use clear? I suppose she means 0.00.
0.00, yeah. So 0.00, which a lot of people refer to as clear. So it lives right here in our swatch book. Right over here.
Nice, yes.
Okay. And what it, so it's not a clear. Okay. So it's not something you're going to use to glaze or gloss with. What 0.00 essentially is we have our whole high lift, ultra lift family that is alkalinity plus tone. 0.00 is just alkalinity. So if you want to create a little bit more lift, say you're using the ultra lifts and you want maybe half to 1 level of additional lift, you would mix the 0.00 in with your formula. Okay. What it does if you use it on its own. So if I put 00 or 0.00 with double 40, it is going to create undertone and no deposit. So for example, I have a mother-daughter that come in, the daughter's like 8, and she wants natural sun-kissed highlights during the winter, because during the summer, the sun lightens her hair beautifully, but in the wintertime, she loses that. So I use the 0.00 with 32 volume to baby light her front and mimic what the sun naturally does. Okay, so it's exposing whatever undertone she has. I'm not manipulating the tonality. It's just creating lift, but it's going to cap at 3 to 4 levels. Versus if I put bleach, I might get up to 9 levels of lift. And if I don't want that, I could use the 0.00. Okay. Some people use it as a base bump or a base break. I personally don't like to do that because I like to have control of the tonality, and undertone is typically warm, but you can use it for multiple reasons, but it's not a clear. So you're probably not going to get that like clear from other lines. This is different. If you want a deposit, something that's going to shine up the hair or add a little bit of gloss, you could use clear from Pure Shades. Okay. Or you could use whatever level the ends are at, like I did with my model, and mix it with Fix and Morph to create just like a nice little color balance type of situation. So that's essentially how you would use the 0.00. I hope that helped.
So, okay. So do your ashes tones have a blue or green basis?
Good question. Our ash is actually a blue-green. So the 0.1 family is a blue-green. And this is when you can use the enhancers to manipulate your formula. So if you wanted a little bit more blue, you could add more blue. If you wanted a little bit more green, you could add more green. If you wanted a little bit more of just an ash that's not blue or green, you could add the gray enhancer. Okay. We also have the 0.11 family, which is a blue, blue, green. So what that family is an additional blue pigment to help with some of the undertones that we get in that level 5 to 7 category, a little bit more blue. But be mindful, you guys, the more blue you add, whether it's the 0.11 or the blue enhancer, the darker your final result is going to look, because visually, blue will absorb more light and make the hair look darker. So for example, if you take our level 5.1 and our 5.11 and put them next to each other, even though they're both a level 5, visually the 1.1 looks darker. So it's important, you guys, when you're formulating or when you're looking at color, to know that it's all a visual thing. It's not always what level it is. Because if I take a 5 gold and put it next to my 5 double ash, even though they're both a level 5, gold will always appear lighter. Yellow reflective, blue absorbs. So we have the blue, blue, green, and the 0.11. And then we have a third ash family, which is the 0.12, which is a blue violet. So we have that in a level 8, 9, or 10, because now in the level 8, 9, or 10, we're starting to see a little bit more yellow, less orange. So we add that violet to help refine some of that yellow. I hope that makes sense. I know it's a lot of information, but ashes are tricky. But once you get a hang of how to manipulate them and how to work with them, it's a lifesaver, the ashes.
Okay. So another question is, when do you use S series sand? Do you have to mix with 0.0?
So you can use sand on its own. I use sand a lot as a low light for my blondes. So as the winter and fall seasons come, my clients want a little bit more depth and dimension. So I usually use sand in like a level 8 or 9 as a low light to help deepen the blonde so it's not so bright. If you're using sand for gray coverage, if they have more than 25% gray, then you would want to add 0.0. I use sand a lot with my blondes. So I have clients that are a 7, 8, 0.0 and sand. So it makes a beautiful beigey type of blonde. So over 25% gray, yes, you want to mix in with 0.0. Under 25, you don't really need it. If you're using it as a low light, you don't need to add the 0.0. It's a beautiful color, and probably one of the most unique colors that I've seen is the sand, because it's that perfect beigey, buttery color.
Okay, so another question is, can you make it clear, so 0.00 with morph?
Okay, so you could, but I would say, why do you want to do that? Can you, depending on what result you're looking for, is there another way to go about doing that? And that's what I would really ask you is, what are you trying to achieve? And maybe, because here's the thing, the 0.00, once you make it a demi-permanent acidic with morph, what's the point? You're not depositing anything. You can't really deposit shine. The only thing that could benefit from doing that is that the color has Caravage 18 in it. So you will add some proteins and amino acids into the hair, but you can also do that in whatever level they are. So if they're naturally a level 8, they don't want to color their hair, but they want to shine it up a little bit, why not add like an 8 gold with Morph and just create that shiny deposit. They're not going to have a line of demarcation, and it's going to give you that maybe reflect you're looking for with that, trying to make it into a deposit only clear. But I'm more than happy if you want to discuss some options. I mean, and if you want to try it, I say go ahead. But what is the end result? And then we can kind of game plan from there.
So another question about 0.00 is, do you mix it like the Ultra Lift?
Yeah, okay, so if you're mixing it with 40 volume, you will mix it double 40. That's going to give you the most amount of lift. Now, if you want to mix it with 21 volume, then you would mix 1:1. 32 volume, you would mix 1:1. But if you're trying to use it for maximum lift by itself, double 40. Typically, stylists will use 0.00 with another ultra blonde. So like 102, half of their formula, the other half 0.00, and then double 40 as your developer. So it depends on how you're planning on utilizing it, but if you mix it with ultra lifts, then double 40 is going to be the way to go.
Okay, so
I think that answers that.
Yes. What makes 4.11 different from the other 0.11 shades?
Okay, good question. So the 0.11 shades were released in 2020, I believe.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so my years are all COVID. Okay, so 2020 is when the 5.6.7.11 was released. So 4.11 is part of our fantasy series, and this has been around since Megix was first launched. So because of the success of the double ash and the need from people for a double ash, we created the 5.6.7 last year, but they're the same. As far as color family is concerned, they're all blue, green background tone. It's just the 4.11 was here years ago, and then the 5.6.7 are the newest babies.
Okay, so the last question is, what developer would you use for scents in low lights?
Good question. So anytime I'm doing a low light, I will always use Fix, just because I want to keep the hair as healthy as possible and not disrupt as much cuticle and not damage it in any way. So I would mix it with Fix and Morph to make it in acidic demi. So the same thing I did with my client Mila, the model that we had, 1 to 1.5 with Fix, and then depending on the level that I'm using in color is how much Morph I would add. So when you're doing level 7 and below, your mixing ratio is going to be for every 20 grams of color, you're going to do 1 gram of Morph. Okay. From levels 8 to 10, for every 10 grams of color, 1 gram of Morph. And then for the ultra lifts, I believe it's for every 1 gram for every, help me out, Maurizio, I don't have the chart.
2 grams every 15 grams.
So 2 grams of Morph for every 15 grams of color.
Yes.
So essentially what's happening is as you go up in alkalinity, which is, the higher levels, like level 9, 10, ultra lifts have more alkalinity, the more Morph you have to add. As you go lower in your window of alkalinity, 5, 6, 4, whatever, the less Morph you have to add because it's not as alkaline as a high lift. So for low lights, if I'm using a level 8 sand for the low light, I would mix, my 10 grams of color to 1 gram of Morph and then Fix 1 to 1.5. And that would be my my mixing ratio. Now, because Magix isn't progressive, if I'm low lighting and highlighting, I don't have to worry about this over deposit or, oh my God, is it going to turn into a level 4? If I mix my formula and formulate accordingly, I don't have to worry about the over deposit happening. So just keep that in mind too. If you're wondering like, well, how about if I leave it on for 20 minutes? You're okay. You probably don't want to leave it on for longer than 45 minutes because then what's the point of using a 10-minute color? But you don't have to worry about over depositing unless the hair is extremely porous, extremely damaged. And then in that case, no matter what you put on it, it's already just shot. So be mindful of that.
Okay, so I suppose questions are over.
All the questions are covered. Okay, let me make sure that I went over Looking at my notes here, if I went over everything, I believe I hit everything that I wanted to talk about. So like I said earlier, I wanted this class to be just very informational for you to understand what is Megix10, how do you use it, and for you to see that it works. You know, a lot of people are skeptical and say that, oh, I don't know about 10-minute color, but I love being able to do the live models for you guys to see the whole thing in progress. So I know we're over our time right now. I just want to say thank you very much, you guys, for staying with us, for all of the questions, for tuning in. Maurizio put my Instagram handle on there earlier. Always feel free to reach out to me. Maurizio, we're here for you to support you in this transition into Megix10 and hopefully rock your business. I know COVID kind of took its toll on us, but that doesn't mean we can't come back stronger. And I believe Megix is a tool for that. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much. Have a good day or good night or good evening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, depending on where you guys are at.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.